and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries laugh to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.TV, and I'm your host for the next 2 hours. And it used to be hard to find something to talk about like 10 years ago. You know, we talked about a lot of stuff, but the media was still kind of being quieter than they are now. And so basically now you can just click into almost any news network and they just come up with the most bizarre stuff. It's just like they're so over the top now, and they look so ludicrous now. And the subject matter they talk about is so out there that people have got to be shaking their heads and waking up. They have to be. They can't stay this stupid this long. Anyways, back in 31, I think it was back in 1931. Yeah, it was. Hard for me to remember back that long ago, but it was. It was December the 11th, 1931. And, you know, we got up in the morning and the grass was green and you know, everybody was pretty pleased about it. The temperature way back then in 1931 on the 11th of December was 14.4 degrees. And let me tell you, we were grateful to have that weather. We'd had some vicious winters prior to that. And so to have December the 11th up at 14.4 degrees Celsius, we were very happy campers. We weren't fearful. We weren't shaking in our boots. We didn't know anything about this man-caused global warming climate change stuff. That was long before that reared its ugly head. No, we were just men and women and children, and the children were a little upset because, well, they wanted to go tobogganing, and they were hoping the river and the pond would freeze up so they could do some skating, but we all knew it would freeze up shortly. I mean, after all, it is winter, and it is Canada. So we expect the ice. You know, sometimes it comes way early, and that gets to be a little bitter, and sometimes it comes later, which gives us more time to haul our wood in for the winter season and to get whatever else we got to get done, batten down the hatches for the cold winds of winter and the snow. But I remember back in 31 how grateful we were to have 14.4 degrees on December the 11th. It was a glorious time, and you know, our animals were in good shape and give us time to finish up those chores before the snow hit. But you know, that was 1931, and now it's 2016, and today is -2 or 3, and it's snowing, and that's okay too because, well, it's winter, you know. And a few years ago, wasn't that many years ago, a few years back, me and my buddy were out golfing this time of year, and they were really pounding us with this man-caused global warming nonsense, and I think we golfed most of the winter that year, and we enjoyed the hell out of it. Now, it wasn't hot, that's for sure, but it would get up 4 or 5 degrees, and there was grass, and you had to warm the golf balls up because they don't fly so good when they're frozen. But, you know, we had some fun. And then just a few years later, we had some absolutely viciously cold weather. I think we broke a lot of cold records. But, you know, I actually had people tell me in the vicious cold that we had after that, and that's not very many years ago at all, it wasn't winter anymore. In the old days, back in the 30s, wasn't like the old days. All of a sudden, because it was cold, it was just winter. It's a cold winter. Damn straight it's cold. Remember there just a few years ago how warm it was? Yeah, but it's winter, you know. It's like summer. You get cold ones, you get wet ones, you get dry ones, you get hot ones. You know, same thing with winter. But that was back in the days when people weren't manipulated to death by media and that. It was just what it is, and you dealt with it. It was cold weather. Yeah, those were the days back in 31. It was a glorious day. We remember it well. Us that are well over 100 years old now, we remember it well. The children today, though, they think that every time it gets cold or warm, it has something to do with something called man-caused global warming and climate change. And this guy Al Gore out there raising some stink. He used to be vice president of the United States, and then he went and made a movie called Inconvenient Truth, or Convenient Lie, depends on which you are. But it's full of nonsense and falsifications and deceptions, and used to deceive mainly the children, because the children don't know. They weren't around in 31 when it was 14.4 degrees. They weren't even around the years we were out golfing. The thing that disturbs me, I think, more than anything is that when we had that cold, we had about 2 or 3 really cold winters here not that long ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, viciously cold. And I actually had people that said, that's a cold winter. Well, that's caused by climate change, they'd say to me. And I thought, well, here's some lunatics. They're freezing their knackers off and got that frozen snot hanging from their noses, and they pipe up that it's cold because of climate change. And you go, holy Lord Almighty. How absolutely easy as it is to deceive people. You just keep firing propaganda at them, and pretty soon they just submit to it. It doesn't matter if it's hot, it's cold, it's wet or dry or whatever it is. It's climate change. It's no longer weather. No, we caused it. We caused it. We got to do something about it. How do you figure that? Well, the scientists, they have a consensus, you know. Do you know what a consensus even is? Nope, but the scientists have one. And we got to believe the scientists because, well, they're smarter than the old priests were. And so we just got to hang on every word they say and do as they say because, well, hell, they're scientists. They know what they're talking about. Very sad. Very sad indeed. So now I'm rooting around this morning. I haven't had a lot of time to root around because I didn't get to bed till after 3 in the morning. And had to get up and shovel snow and do a bunch of stuff this morning. And I don't mind shoveling snow. I'd as soon I didn't shovel the snow, but then it's winter. It's what it is. It's what it's always been and always will be. But somehow the scientists are so brilliant. They can predict out. Predict. Science is about observation, not predictions. But they can predict out, through their past observations, Obviously, we didn't bring in 1931 temperatures, but they predict out in 100 years from now, and they can gauge that the temperature could rise 2 degrees Celsius. And if that happens, it's over. Worse than the fear of atomic war, that 2 degrees Celsius is going to do us all in. So we all have to just bear down and be fearful and do as we're told. Pay the carbon tax and don't drive vehicles anymore and don't heat your homes anymore. Don't air condition your homes anymore because it's your fault. So just to make sure that the propaganda, and I always say the propaganda has a shelf life, and this propaganda is well past its shelf life. The children that were hammered with the Al Gore inconvenient truth, that was, how the hell long ago was that? Long time ago. So those kids are like, I don't know how old they are now, 15? So the new crop of kids don't know who Al Gore is. So, because Al Gore cares, Al's making a sequel. Al Gore's climate change film and inconvenient truth gets a sequel. Paramount Pictures says the follow-up documentary will premiere at the 2017 Sundance Film Festival. Al Gore's climate change documentary. Okay, in the new documentary, it says, former Vice President Gore examines global warming's escalation and the solutions at hand, Paramount said. Now, if you don't have a reason, if you never had a reason to boycott Paramount before, you bloody well got one now. In a statement, Gore called for a rededication to solving what he called the climate crisis and said there are reasons to be hopeful. He met this week with President-elect Donald Trump to discuss the topic and termed the meeting, well, productive. Several days later, Trump picked Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt, a climate change denier, as head of the Environmental Protection Agency. The Sundance Festival said it will feature other films and events about environmental change and conservation. Well, isn't that nice? Now, climate change denier to run the U.S. EPA. Retired General tapped for Homeland Security post climate change denier to run the Environmental Agency. Donald Trump embraced new cabinet officers Wednesday whose background suggests he primed to put tough actions behind his campaign rhetoric on immigration and the environment, even as he seemed to soften his year-long stance on immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. It's clear by the day, underscored by Trump's at times contradictory words, that his actual policies as president won't be settled until after he takes his seat in the Oval Office in January. Retired Marine General John Kelly has been selected to head the Department of Homeland Security, and Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt, a climate change denier whose policies have helped fossil fuel companies, is to be announced as head of the Environmental Protection Agency. Separately, Trump named the former chief executive of World Wrestling Entertainment, Linda McMahon, to head the Small Business Administration. Well, that makes perfect sense. Let's see. The former chief executive of the World Wrestling Entertainment, Linda McMahon, to head the Small Business Administration. Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. I mean, who else would you want running the Small Business Administration other than the former chief executive of the World Wrestling Entertainment business? I guess that was a small business as well, so she has some experience in running small businesses. It's so bizarre, it's ridiculous. Trump's long presidential campaign was in large part defined by searing rhetoric and his steadfast promises to build an impenetrable wall on the border with Mexico and crack down on immigrants living in the U.S. illegally. But he struck a softer tone in an interview published Wednesday after he was named Time Magazine Person of the Year. Well, that's pretty cool because Hitler was Time Magazine's Man of the Year, and I think it was Stalin was, I believe, twice Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Doesn't call him Man of the Year, right? Okay. Call him Person of the Year. Because in the legal system, man doesn't exist. Persons exist, but men don't exist. So they're right on that point anyways. So Donald Trump, the entity, the legal entity, not Donald Trump, the living, breathing man, but the legal entity named Donald Trump, was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. So the fictional Donald Trump is who was named in Time Magazine. We're going to work something out that's going to make people happy and proud, Trump said. They got brought here at a very young age. They worked here. They've gone to school here. Some were good students. Some have wonderful jobs, and they're in Never Never Land because they don't know what's going to happen. Well, everyone is in Never Never Land because we're in a fictional land. We're in the land of the legal entity land, which is Never Never Land, which is the Netherland or the Netherworld between living and dead. And we got to get back to living and shed the dead because it is the dead corporate entity that controls our lives. Talk versus action. During the campaign, Trump's tough comments, including a vow to overturn President Barack Obama's executive orders on immigration, have led to fears among immigrant advocates that he will end Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, known as the DACA program. Hundreds of thousands of young immigrants have gained work permits and temporary protection from deportation under the 2012 program, which aides to the Trump have said would be revisited. Others continue to press the immigrant case. Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, there's a character, presented Trump a letter Wednesday from 14 big city mayors urging him to keep the program intact. Well, big city mayors is straight out of the United Nations. The big city mayors, the global mayors, the world mayors, of which this is part of, want him to keep the program intact. Well, of course they do, because the idea is to flood your nations with immigrants and migrants in order to what? Destroy the nation states. Because what does the UN and the globalists and the corporates want? They want an end to borders. They want the end of nation states. And damn it, Trump, if you go and you start stopping the immigrants and the migrants from coming in, how the hell are we supposed to destroy the nation? So just leave that program in place, says Emmanuel. And if you know anything about that doofus, you would understand what I'm talking about. They were working hard toward the American dream, Emmanuel told reporters in lobby of Trump's skyscraper, in the lobby of Trump's skyscraper. It's no fault of their own. Their parents came here. They are something we should hold up and embrace. Though some immigrant advocates hoped Trump's words were an olive branch, others were skeptical. We've seen this move before, Frank Cherry of the immigrant rights group America's Voice said in a statement. Unfortunately, we expect no pivot or no softening. Meanwhile, Trump moved toward making another addition to the collection of generals in his cabinet, settling on Kelly to head Homeland Security, according to people close to the transition. Kelly, who joined the Marine Corps in 1970, retired this year after a final command that included oversight of the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center. He has a reputation as a border hawk after a time in the Southern Command, which is based in South Florida and regularly works with Homeland Security on missions to identify and disseminate immigrant smuggling networks. Trump also picked Pruitt, a longtime critic of the EPA, to head that same agency, according to person close to Pruitt, who was not authorized to speak publicly about the choice before it was announced. The move comes just after Trump met with former Vice President Al Gore, who was an environmental activist, and said he had an open mind about honoring the Paris Climate Accords. Well, has an open mind about honoring the Paris Climate Accords. Well, if you have an open mind about honoring the Paris Climate Accords, then why would you bother to put a climate denier in as the head of the EPA if you have an open mind about honoring the Paris Climate Accords? So the new president says he's an open mind about honoring a total fraud, a deception, a mechanism designed to destroy the nation of America. But then we're talking about politics, aren't we? That gave hope to some environmentalists, but on Wednesday, Trump's apparent decision was denounced by, I don't know, Democrats. Mr. Pruitt's record is not only that of being a climate change denier, but also someone who has worked closely with the fossil fuel industry to make this country more dependent, not less dependent, on fossil fuels, said Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. But Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe, a Republican, said Pruitt has proven that being a good steward of the environment does not mean burdening taxpayers and businesses with red tape. Also Wednesday, Trump said he plans to name his Secretary of State next week and insisted that former rival Mitt Romney still had a chance. Well, that's pathetic. Trump, who has met twice with the 2012 Republican nominee, denied he was stringing Romney along to make him pay for saying the former reality show star was unfit to be president. Well, that's the guy you want as the vice president, right? You want to put the guy who was the vice. You want to put the guy who was running around saying that Trump is unfit to be the president. That's the kind of guy you want to make to be the vice president. Duh. No, it's not about revenge. It's about what's good for the country. And I'm able to put this stuff behind us. And I hit him very hard also, Trump said in a television interview on NBC. Those close to the selection process have said that Trump has begun moving away from both Romney and another former frontrunner, former New York City Giuliani. Well, Giuliani is a criminal, has always been a criminal. Why in the hell would you bring somebody in like Giuliani? Senate Foreign Relations Chairman Bob Corker and former CI Director David Peteros had also been previously identified by transition aides as part of the Final Four. Trump has now expanded the pool. Well, so now the Sundance thing with Mr. Gore there, let's see what this says. I never read this yet. Trump, who once called global warming a hoax, meets with climate change activist Al Gore. Let's see what's in this story. Former vice president, a leading voice in the fight against climate change, and Donald Trump, who at one point, yada, yada, yada. Gore, a Democrat, spent about 90 minutes in meeting at the president-elect's Trump Tower apartment and office building in Manhattan. In addition to seeing Trump, he also met briefly with the Republican's daughter, Ivanka, or whatever, who has attended a series of high-level meetings since her father won the November 8th election. Gore, who lost the 2000, Let's see. That warning came amid Trump campaign speeches calling on the United States to drop out of last year's global climate accord signed in Paris to lower carbon emissions. The concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. And that is, yes, is a tweet or whatever from Donald Trump. Which is true. The whole point of free trade is part of the game of destroying the West. Isn't the only hope for the planet that industrialized nations collapse? Isn't our responsibility to help bring that about? More a strong bum boy of the Rockefellers and every other globalist out there. Trump also referred to human-induced climate change as a hoax, and had tweeted that the concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. And U.S. manufacturing is non-competitive. Now, any nation, I've said this a million times, if you're a nation and you cannot produce what your people need, then you're in a pretty sorry spot, because now you become dependent on others. And that's exactly what's happened with North America. We don't make anything here. We have more resources than we know what to do, but we don't make anything here. Our resources are being shipped out of here at low rates, sent to China, which just happens to have 2,000 or 2,000 plus coal plants. And it was Rockefeller and Strong who put this stuff together in China. Okay, and all their buddies and all their corporate buddies said, well, what about, America or Canada? Well, what the hell, it's all about money and your corporation, so why don't you just pull out? We've got the cheapest labor on the planet, according to Strong, and nobody can compete with us, according to Strong. And now all we need is a lot of fossil fuel plants, coal plants and whatnot, in order to produce product cheaply, and that our corporate buddies can basically quash all competition and take control of all manufacturing on the planet, or most of it. Now, what's happening with the fossil fuels that we're not being allowed to use here in North America? Well, they're being shipped to the East at very low rates so that their corporate buddies can make large profits as our nations continue to implode. And then when they got you broke enough, it's already been implemented all over the place, that damn guaranteed basic income. And once they get enough people poor enough, and they promote the guaranteed basic income enough, that everyone has the right to adequate everything, based on the universal UN human rights, then you are forever screwed. And I don't want to see that happen. Now, what Trump's up to, I have no idea. Okay? Trump has obviously rubbed shoulders and done business with some pretty shady characters, or he wouldn't have the bankroll he has. That's a given. Okay, so apparently Gore says they did a sincere search for areas of common ground. Gore had a somewhat more upbeat take on Trump after huddling with the wealthy New York real estate developer and television reality star. It was a sincere search for areas of common ground, Gore told reporters, adding, I found it an extremely interesting conversation and to be continued. Aides to Trump were not immediately available to comment on Monday's meeting. Gore, who shared the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 for his work in urging action against the risks of global warming, was also kicking off on Monday a 24-hour talkathon to urge more action in the battle against climate change, which threatens to raise sea levels, spread diseases, and increase droughts in more regions in the world. In a possibly related manner, Trump is scheduled to meet on Tuesday with Rex Tillerson, the head of ExxonMobil Corp., who possibly is being considered for the job of Secretary of State in the Trump administration. Here we go. We've got Al Gore in Canada. Anyways, ExxonMobil embraced the 2015 Paris Agreement that would lower global greenhouse gas emissions by between 26 and 28% from 2005 levels by 2025. An aide to Gore said the Trump transition reached out to him after the former vice president had said he intended to do everything he could to work with the president-elect to ensure that the U.S. remains a leader in the efforts to address climate change. Now, he's been down there talking. The Trump win. Oh, I love these headlines. The Trump win is the most, this is quote, Trump win, the quote, most miserable U.S. election result, unquote, for fighting climate change, scientists say. Video, Al Gore very optimistic about Trudeau government's contribution to climate talks. Well, I suppose so, eh? No, I don't think there's a story here. No, I'm not going to dick around with a video. Let's go here. I want to see what these scientists got to say. Okay, the election of a U.S. president who has called global warming a hoax raised questions Wednesday about America's involvement in the Paris Agreement on climate change and the future of the deal itself. Several scientists warned that Earth will likely reach dangerous levels of warming if President-elect Donald Trump fulfills his campaign pledges to undo the Obama administration's climate policies. Many people at the UN climate talks in Morocco said it is now up to the rest of the world to lead efforts to rein in greenhouse gas emissions. Others held out hope that Trump would change his stance and honor U.S. commitment under the Paris Agreement. Now that the election campaign has passed and the realities of leadership settle in, I expect we will realize that climate change is a threat to his people and to whole countries which share seas with the U.S., including my own, Marshall Islands. President Hilda Heine said in a statement, small island nations fear they will be swallowed by rising seas. Well, if you're that stupid, Hilda, you deserve to get run over. But it won't be by rising seas. Moving, let's see, more than 100 countries, including the U.S., have formally joined the agreement, which seeks to reduce emissions and help vulnerable countries adapt to rising seas, intensifying heat waves and the spreading of diseases, or the spreading of deserts and other changes from human-made warming. Now, see, they've changed this again. It was man-made global warming there for the longest time. Then they changed it to climate change. Now it's human-made warming. Well, a human is not a man. A human is an animal. It says so. Look it up. Two words you won't find in the KJV, which is supposed to be our law book, are legal and human. Don't exist. Both are color of, hue, color of. Similar to, like, but not. Law or man. So now they've changed it from man-made global warming to human-made warming, which once again is calling you an animal. Okay? They want to call the herd. There's too many of you, and they really can't go around killing men and women and children. So, but they can call the human herd, because humans are animals derived from the great ape, according to these nut-bar scientists. They have no evidence of that, of course, but it's all a way to gain control over everything on the planet. So you, the animal, there's obviously too many of you. You're causing the planet to heat up, and you're putting the whole of the world and the whole of the human race, the animal race, in jeopardy. And as Prince Philip said, when he dies, he wants to come back as a deadly virus in order to call the herd. Okay, you're the herd. Okay? Why we put up with this shit is beyond me. What needs to get culled is these psychopathic sociopaths. That's the herd that needs to get culled. And the sooner they're culled, the better. Then we can get back to law and we can get being back to men and women, not these legal entities referred to as humans or things, which is a legal system. Anyways, let's see what else we got here. It seems like the most miserable U.S. election result for climate stewardship prospects, said Jason Box, a glacier expert at the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland. Can the world do climate stewardship without the U.S.? It has to. Alden Mayer of the Union of Concerned Scientists, a veteran U.S. observer of the climate talks, said he hopes Trump will adopt a more responsible view of climate change once he takes office. Even if he does not have the power to amend and change the laws of physics to stop the impacts of climate change, to stop the rising sea levels. Oh, it says even he does not have the power. He doesn't need the power. He doesn't need any power to work with climate change because guess what? It is a constructed fraud deception mechanism. Okay? And this is what they call these things, mechanisms. And that's all climate change is. It's a constructed, what do they call that? It's a abstract concept. That's legal terminology, abstract concepts. Something made up in the mind, not real, fictional. Okay, and that's exactly what climate change is. But again, back to the 50th century, Henry Warburg stated, we need a mechanism. Okay, we need a mechanism. And the mechanism, one of the mechanisms that was chosen was climate change, or man-made global, or we're now human. They can't even keep a handle on what they call this crap. Human-made global warming. We need a mechanism. We need a problem that can only be solved at the global level. Okay? And that is what this whole climate nonsense is about. A made-up problem that can only be solved at the global level. Not real. Never been real. It's a mechanism to move people, to destroy nations, to gain control over all the men and women and children and resources on the planet, and have taken away from your nation, put them in their piggy bank, and then divvy out what they determined to be adequate for you and everyone else on the planet. Now, is Trump strong enough to stand up to this crap? Damned if I know. That's not the question. The question is, are the people strong enough? Are the men and the women strong enough to stand up to this nonsense? Are the men and women strong enough? Have they got a strong enough mind, enough spine left to stand up and save their own nations? To start manufacturing again in their nations, to cut this rhetoric out. And that any media source that would promote this nonsense is to be shut down. Because they are working, they're complicit. They're complicit in the conspiracy against you and your nation. And they need to be shut down. And there is not one media outlet out there that does not need to be sued. Every single major news media, except this one, needs to be sued because every one of them is engaging in mental abuse. People are nervous. People are having problems sleeping. It's the same thing they did with the nuclear war threat when I was a kid. Same garbage, same type of mechanism. Only that mechanism was to keep separate and divided. And again, it was Warburg who said, how are we going to do this when we got two superpowers? Right? If we're having a Cold War against Russia, how in the hell are we supposed to come up with a mechanism that's going to be solved at a global level? Down came the Iron Curtain, down came the Berlin Wall. Now they can set their mechanisms in place because now the world has come together. So now we can come up with our global problems. They're going to be solved at a global level. That's all that's happened. And the media has been complicit from the get-go in this. The media knew both the World War I and World War II and every damn war in between and afterwards has been phony. And they all need to get their asses sued. Anyways, the others weren't so sure, it goes on to say, with scientists and environmental activists calling Trump's election, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Calling Trump's election a planetary disaster. Are you afraid yet, people? Are you scared? What are we going to do with Trump? If Trump does what Trump says he's going to do, well, then he's the one that pushed the button, destroyed the world. He might as well have pushed the nuclear button. He's pushing the planetary disaster button. Woe is us. And they teach this shit to the kids in the school. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Only the scientists can save you. And politicians who listen to the scientists, and preachers and teachers who listen to the scientists, and media who listens to the scientists, all blindly waving the environmental flag. The Paris Agreement and any U.S. leadership in international climate process is dead, said Dana Fisher, director of the Program for Society and the Environment at the University of Maryland, said in an email. However, the transition towards cleaner energy is so entrenched in the U.S. it would continue without federal money, she added. No, it won't. No, it won't. As soon as the federal money dries up on renewable energy, what it has in the past when they tried it the first time, way back in the 70s, as soon as that free money dried up, the idea of renewable energy imploded upon itself. These people know it don't work. These people know it's phonier than hell, but these corporations, you're handing out free money, we'll take it. We'll build whatever idiotic thing you want if you're giving us free money and giving us contracts for 20 years. So anybody that thinks that this renewable energy will continue at the pace it's been going with all this money flying around is an idiot. But then most environmentalists are basic idiots. May Bove, leader of the 350.org environmental group, called the election results a disaster. The U.S., under the Bush administration, declined to join the previous climate deal, the 1997 Kyoto Protocol, which greatly reduced the Accord's impact, but President Barack Hussein Obama made climate change a priority and was instrumental in making the Paris Accord come together. The goal is to keep the rise of global temperatures below 2 degrees Celsius compared with pre-industrial times. Temperatures, though, have already gone up by half that amount. Trump pledged in May to cancel the Paris deal. Great, because I hate frauds, I hate deceptions, I hate liars. I hate people sticking their hand in my and or your pocket and extracting your labor from your pocket without your consent so they can fly around the planet and eat very good and drink very good and live the high life while you're down here slaving away trying to keep a roof over your head as they stick their hands in your pocket and remove more and more every year. Without U.S. actions to reduce emissions and the U.S. diplomatic leadership, implementation of Paris will surely slow, and according to a 2-degree and avoiding a 2-degree warming, the benchmark of danger would become impossible, said Princeton University climate science Michael Oppenheimer via email. About 20% of the Accord's expected reductions in heat-trapping gases through 2030 were to come from the United States, according to Drew Jones, co-director of Climate Interactive, a group of researchers who model climate emissions and temperatures. Trump has called for stripping regulations to allow unfettered production of coal, oil, and natural gas, a key source of emissions, and rescinding the Clean Power Plan in Obama administration strategy to fight climate change. Now, I'll carry on with this for a little bit longer. Trump told an oil and gas conference in North Dakota he would save the coal industry and stop using tax dollars for global warming programs, but it is unlikely that Trump's actions would reopen coal mines or coal-fired power plants. What really killed coal in the United States is much cheaper natural gas from hydraulic fracturing or fracking, said former astronaut Jay Apt, now co-director of the Carnegie Mellon Electricity Industry Center, in a phone interview from Pittsburgh. Apt said it is likely the nation will use even less coal if Trump opens up more drilling and the price of natural gas drops. The Pro-Fossil Fuels American Energy Alliance said Trump's victory presents a chance to reset harmful energy policies in the U.S. You have 4 years to pull out, but Trump can't ignore targets. While shell-shocked American climate activists cried and embraced U.S. negotiators declined to speak to reporters about the election outcome. Before the 2-week conference, U.S. officials said they expect other countries to stay the course no matter what Washington decides. Let's see. Lai Shuo, a climate policy expert at Greenpeace in China, said his nation, the world's top polluter, would continue to work on climate change out of its very own genuine concern. Well, you're going to be a while at this, because if you got 2,000 coal plants or more, I know they built 500 of them really quickly. I know they cut a deal with Australia, one of the Australian states, provinces, whatever they call it there, for 60 billion 20-year contract to ship coal from Australia to China. Well, at the same time, that particular region of Australia was shutting down its own coal plants because coal's bad for the climate, but they're shipping the coal over to China in order to run the factories. And because China basically has cornered the market on production or manufacturing, they obviously need more coal plants. And I don't know when that was. That was probably back some time ago that they went on a building spree of 500 coal plants where we're shutting ours down. In all of Canada, I think we only had probably, I don't know that we would have more than 15 coal plants in the whole freaking country. And we shut them all down because of climate change. Nobody ever mentions, well, China's working on it. Well, they're still building coal plants. Because you know why they're building coal plants? Because there's 300 years, or 3,000, I think it is, 3,000 or 300 years, 3,000, I think it is, worth of coal on the planet. And if you're not using the coal and you're not using the coal and you're not using the coal, guess what? The market value of the coal does what? Goes in the toilet. That makes coal what? Dirt cheap. And what are you going to do with it? Leave it in the ground? Hell no. You're going to ship it over to fire up the coal plants in China. So this whole thing about global warming is, was, and continues to be a complete and total constructed deception fraud mechanism. There is nothing real about man-caused, man-made, human-made climate change. They can't even keep their terminology straight, for crying out loud. But hey, I know I don't want to miss Inconvenient Truth, the sequel. So I got to save up some money so I can go to Sundance and rub shoulders with all the excited environmentalists about the new sequel and all the fear and nervousness by these people that if Trump don't get on board with this, well, we're all going to die. You're all going to die anyways. That's a given. My attitude is, what are we going to do between now and then? What we're going to do between now and then, we're going to take these deceivers, these liars, these legalists, and kick them to hell out of our lands, off our lands. I feel better with an immigrant. I feel less threatened by an immigrant than I do by the legal system. But then it's the legal system that brought the immigrants in. So it's the legal system that's got to go bye-bye. Now, Donald Trump ain't a stupid man. He knows that he's not taking an oath to serve the people. He knows that. Taking an oath to serve the state. And he knows that he's not the one serving the state. It is the piece of paper called Donald Trump, and he acts as an agent for it. So, you know, if Mr. Trump would say, okay, first thing I'm going to do is take the legal system and give it the high ho. That's the first thing that we need to build a wall against, is the legal system. The next thing we have to do is create our own currencies, be it a North American currency or a Canadian, Australian, American currency. But we need to take the Western countries that they're trying to destroy, and we need to come together and set up our own trading bloc between our own people, which are basically white Europeans, and I guess do what the UN and the World Bank and the IMF are attempting to do, and that's get control of all of our resources. All we got to do is figure out the value of our resources and create our money backing, using that, our resources as a backer, and start printing our own money and build our own trading bloc. There is nothing that we need from China. There's nothing we need from the Philippines. There's nothing we need from Japan. We, the West, we could build a wall and just exclude the rest of the frickin' planet and live a very comfortable, non-threatened, honest, lawful life. Now, will Mr. Trump step up to the plate? I highly doubt it. It's going to take not a man to stand up and kick the legal system out and put the law system back in. It's going to take a lot of work by a lot of men and women who actually grasp the concept of law versus legal, who actually grasp the concept that these are our lives, not their lives, to grasp the concept that we're tired of being manipulated, lied to, and deceived. And we're going to start anew. And I guess I could use that old George Bush thing up there. I think that was on the deck of a boat, aircraft carrier. You're either with us or you're against us. Now, I don't like Bush. I don't like anything to do with any of these people. But it's the kind of attitude we got to take. Either you're with us or you're against us. And if you are in the business of promoting things that are set up and being used to destroy our nations, then you ain't going to be in our nation. These are our lands, these are our people, and we have a duty to protect our lands and our people and our futures. The legal system is there to enslave you, to deceive you, to basically take away your life and put you in a position of a fictional entity, okay, which is kidnapping, which is theft, which is all against the law. So why do we put up with this nonsense? Everybody just shove off. There is nothing, I've said this so many times, there is nothing in our country, so-called country, Canada, the so-called nation called Canada, was nothing more than a damn corporation. But on these lands, this landmass they call Canada, with the resources at our fingertips, there is nothing that we can't grow, build, engineer, manufacture for the needs of our people. Absolutely nothing. Then why aren't we doing it? Now, if we join forces with our friends in America and our friends in Australia and our friends in Britain and the general West, and we put that into action, you won't find people living on the streets. You won't find people needing charity, because there's nothing that we can't produce, manufacture, and grow for the benefit of our people. America was supposed to be the light of liberty and freedom. That light's been turned off. It's time to put a new bulb in the socket and hit the switch. Because if we don't do that and do it soon, we shall all perish. And it won't be because of climate change. It will be because of our interaction. You know, the forefathers all warned about this shit. Either we're going to fix it or we're not. And I got to break in here for a second. Whoa. My good friend Art just rolled in here from the snowbank. You look good.
Thanks. How's it going?
Well, I was jackhammering the other day. Sorry for not getting back to you. I've been bone-ass tired. I've been out in the snow too, and the freaking wind. I mean, we've been working in basic snowstorms.
I'm building a roof.
Then I ended up on a jackhammer. What day is this?
I have no idea. I think it's
Sunday. I ended up on a jackhammer Friday, and we were really getting tired. and I'm banging away with this jackhammer, right? And you're hauling on this thing and everything. And Bruce is going, I said, this is sucks. And he's going, I don't know how you're doing that. I go, what do you mean? He said, I am so tired, right? We've been fighting the wind and the snow and the shit, right? I am so tired. The shovel feels heavy, right?
Everything feels
and
heavy.
You're banging around with this damn jackhammer. So my back got pulled, right? So I haven't been, I'm feeling some better today, but the last couple of days I've been pretty in the garbage can here. So
Me too.
are you sticking around for a bit?
Be here for about an hour.
An hour?
I'll wait till you're done your show and then we'll leave. So.
Well, okay, the show's over in 1 hour.
Okay.
So what I need is somebody to call in and take the show over for the next hour.
Where's Chris?
so we can visit. Yeah, where is Chris? Where's Duck when you need him?
I'll talk to you in a bit.
Yeah, all right. Good to see you. Sorry for that interruption. That's a friend who is busting his ass helping another friend try to get a house put together, and was thrown out of his own house. Done some brilliant work, and has got beat up in the process. But there's no reason to lay down. It's all part and part. It's all part of the process of learning the ins and outs of the nonsense that we put up with here. And anyways, there's another thing I wanted to talk about quickly, and that is I use Facebook as a kind of a feeler, if you will. Most of the stuff is pretty junky, but I try to get a feeling. Now, I posted this thing. I think I might have mentioned this on the show last night, Northern Revolution Radio. But this is how this is, and this is exactly what that Chief Justice in England in 1929 was warning about in the what was it called, what the hell was that called? The New Deception or something? Warning us about, anyways. So now we have we have these bankers, which is a banker, head of the TD Bank in 2013 at the Bilderberg Conference, also part of the group that picks who's coming to the conference. Becoming an advisor for the Premier of Ontario, who's a muttonhead, and he advises her on what she should sell for the benefit of the globalists to the detriment of the people. And of course she does it, because she's a muttonhead. And so, this picture, you have the Premier with their hands out, this is more convenience, more choice, what the sign says, and then you have Ed Clark off to the side, watching her to make sure she says what she's supposed to say. Puppet land, okay? So, I run across these things every now and again about, we need new government in that. Well, that's true. We need a new process. So I ran into a guy last night, and I don't know that he's hooked up, but this is about solutions. And a lot of these solutions I knock down pretty quick. Because most of it is just controlled opposition. So I haven't had much chance to look at it, but this here it's called Direct Democracy for Canadians. Now, these are comments that were left on this thing about the Premier and Ed Clark of the TD Bank, the Bilderberg Group. So Penny Trottier writes a comment. So now it is confirmed how evil she is, speaking of Kathleen Wynne, she is only part of the elite agenda when our people of Ontario are going to kick her the hell out. And then Nick Greco writes, replace her with what? Penny writes back, I have no idea, as I agree they are all the same. Nick Greco writes back, we put our trust in politicians for too long. It's time to replace the old system with a new system of self-governance. And then he puts the logo in here, Direct Democracy for Canadians. What I wrote back to Nick was we must do away with the party system. Its only real purpose is to divide the people and in the process conquer them. Nick writes back, I agree that is why we have to go in the same direction as Switzerland. Well, that's kind of a flag for me. With direct democracy, well, democracy is a flag. Why would I want to go with Swiss democracy? But the only difference is that we eliminate parties and only have representatives with the clear goal of representing its voters. Um, Now, I wrote him back and I said, I don't like the word democracy, too close to demonocracy. Each district picks, this is my thought process and has been for a long, long time, and is based on native law, really, which is basically the same law as the KJV, do no harm. And, I said this when I ran on the radio a couple times when I was being interviewed when I ran the 207 provincial election as an independent. The first thing we got to do is if there's two sides to a country, you don't have a country. If there's two opposing sides, you don't have a nation. You have a divided nation, which is not a nation. It is fractured. It is not whole. It can never be whole if it's fractured. And that is what and that is exactly why the two-party system was set up. Anyways, I said I don't like the word democracy, too close to the word demonocracy, which is what democracy really is, because it's amoral, is legal system garbage, and the legal system is, by definition, amoral, and it ain't real. And so we don't want democracy for sure. But what I was saying is if you sit down and you look at it, it's very simple. Now, Chris and I, or Doc, have had some disagreements on this, but when you sit down and think about it, it makes perfect bloody sense. You can take your same electoral districts that you have now, only you're not voting right, left. You're not voting, oh, they're more middle this time, so we should vote for them. You don't vote for any of them. Okay, you simply you know the people in your neighborhood, and you send one. You're not voting for a party. You're voting for the man or woman who you think can best represent the needs of your district, and you send them. So there's none of this fighting back and forth. The media is going to hate it because there's no friction. So each district simply picks the man or woman they feel represent the district. All district reps have the duty to work together to use their resources combined in all the districts so as to best serve all of the people in all of the districts. Of course, there must be an instant recall if a rep is not living up to the set standards. Because who in business would continue to keep a bad employee for 4 freaking years is what we do in the political system. So I asked Nick, because I'd like to discuss this with him, to please be a guest on my show. He said he would love to, so now we need to hook up here. And see if we can get hooked up. I haven't. I sent him a note, and hopefully he can hook up. So if I go to the direct, I've seen so many of these things over the years, and most of them are just more deception. Let's see what this says. It says on their banner, let's see, citizens, that's wrong. You don't want to be a citizen. You don't want democracy. Parliamentary representative, you don't want that. What's that say? Semi-direct government, power laws, executive, monarchy. I don't know what all this stuff's supposed to mean on the front page. It sounds confused, which I think it probably is. But it's a good place Nick Greco here shared Basic Income Canada's network post, which makes me nervous. Would a universal basic income fix economic inequality? One group is spending 10 million to find out. As popular uprisings sweep the Western world, beginning yada yada yada. So. Who these guys are, I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't had time. But I would love to have one of these guys come on the show so that we could discuss it. I know I've been kicked off a few Facebook direct democracy type sites for explaining, when I look at it, what exactly they're up to. So hopefully this Nick guy is on the up and up, and maybe we can have a decent discussion and try to figure out a proper way to administer the resources of this nation. Good afternoon, Christopher.
Hey, Ron.
How you doing this fine, fine day?
Good. I had to call you on Skype. The UC lines are down.
What's that?
UC lines are down. They're not operating. There's no. If you were trying to looking for callers, you're not getting any.
Oh,
I just called in, and
the line not working.
the line's not working.
Well, that makes me feel less unpopular, at least.
Yeah. You're talking about you don't like this two-party system?
No, sir.
Oh, I don't know. I think that's why you should move to people from the States should move to Canada. We got more than two parties. We got about 18.
Mm-mm. We still only really have two.
Well,
All of that rest of that nonsense is just that bait and switch, and it's just more deception. We don't have. Regardless, you could have 36 parties and still have two.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But
I mean, there is right and there is left, and that's it. That's all there is. There's right and left. The Wild Rose Party out in Alberta now, which is a brand new party, is what party? It's a right-wing party, right? The Conservative Party in Alberta has basically been put in the toilet, so we rise up a new one, right? We call it Wild Rose Party, right? Because that's the logo for Alberta. And to fight back against the left. The Green Party is really the Red Party, which is the left. So there is only two sides. There's no middle ground here. If you had middle ground, we wouldn't have all this scrapping, and we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in if we had a middle ground, because a middle ground would only be interested not in party politics. They would only be interested in the benefit of the people. The parties are only interested in the benefit of the party. Period. Because the parties don't represent the people, nor do those that get voted in represent the people, because, of course, they take an oath to represent the state, which is a fiction, which makes the whole political system a fictional fucking fairy tale, if you will.
So your solution is to abolish all parties.
Yep.
And then what? Socialism?
What?
Well,
Socialism?
one rule.
No.
Right?
No.
If you don't have
There's no leader. There's no leader.
discussing back and forth
What?
how best to run your country,
Uh-huh.
and you get rid of that, then you get one that says this is how it's going to be.
No, that's nothing.
That'd be socialism, would it not?
No.
Communism and
No, I don't want politics. Okay? I don't want politics. Politics is there to deceive people. That's the purpose of it.
then we'd all be running around beating each other with bats
Now, why would we be doing that?
because we got nobody to control us, calm us down,
Why?
take their money to keep us safe.
No, 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 no.
Having fun with you, buddy.
I know you are, and I appreciate it. But there's no, no, no. There's no leader. That's the worst thing you can possibly have. I'm the leader. You voted for me, and you do. That's a dictatorship. America's a dictatorship. Canada's a dictatorship. So why would you want another dictatorship? The President of the United States has executive order. That immediately, with all the politics and the houses and the reps and all that bullshit they got in the United States, it was set up so that the president would not be able to do what the president is able to do. It was the checks and balances, the republic, the checks and balances. There's no checks and balances. As long as the president has executive order, the rest of it's just junk. Because in the end, if the president has executive order, the president of the United States is a dictator. The way we have it here in Canada, the prime minister is the dictator. The prime minister here can shove whatever shit he wants through, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Oh, they play the game, right? Brad Wall doesn't want the carbon tax for Saskatchewan. Really? Well, Brad Wall, I think he's being sued, the Premier of Saskatchewan, in an ongoing lawsuit. But Brad Wall, who I think has been the Premier since 2007, they have implemented every aspect of UN Agenda 21 in Saskatchewan. Now people are on the internet calling Brad Wall a hero because he's bucking the carbon tax. Excuse me, but Brad Wall was at the same Bilderberg meeting as was Ed Clark, who is advising the Premier on what to sell off in order to appease or make happy the globalists who run the Bilderberg Group. Now, Brad Wall was at the same damn Bilderberg Group. So why all of a sudden Brad Wall, the Premier of Saskatchewan, who has implemented every aspect of Agenda 21 into Saskatchewan, all of a sudden comes out against the carbon tax? Duh. Is that a play? Brad Wall knows damn well that Tinkerbell Trudeau there has the authority, because it's a global problem, to overstep the bounds of the premiers. So is this just a consolidation of powers? Sure it is. Brad Wall's a player. But that's not how it gets played in the media. That ain't how it gets played on Facebook. They ain't how it gets played on online media. Brad Wall's a hero. He's standing up. Bullshit, he's standing up. He's a player. Just another deceiver. And in the end, we will have our carbon tax, whether Brad Wall likes it or not. Brad Wall knows what's going on, or he wouldn't have been implementing Agenda 21 all these years. So, no, do we need a political system? Absolutely not. We most definitely do not need a political system. What is politics? Somebody told me that one. Poly is many, and ticks are feeding on you. So you got many feeding on you, which is exactly what's going on. Always been going on. You work, they feed from you. And they tell you what you can and can't do. And they tell you got to give them $600 so that you can get a certificate to walk up a freaking ladder. Why would anybody in their right mind put up with any of this stuff? No, politics, kick the tick off our back, get it out of our country, okay? And the people in law, real law, will deal with it. Now, are you telling me there's no good people in these lands? Now, where I live, we have certain resources. Where I lived in Alberta, they have certain resources. The East Coast has resources. Okay, this is the country, not the company. These are the men and women, not the fictional characters that can be jacked around with. Okay, so you just simply go find what you think is the most competent man or woman to represent the people in the neighborhood. The people in the neighborhood, not the politician, there's not a politician, I don't even like the word. Your representative is not your leader. Okay, they're your representative. The people sit down with that representative that they're going to send to the table, and they are going to sit down and figure out what their assets are, where they need some help, what they could get from another district, what we could give to another district, and so that we are using our resources in an intelligent fashion for the betterment of the people in all of the different regions, so that we can manufacture our goods, we can grow our goods, and so on and so forth. That's the whole point. I don't even use the word politics. Kick
Sounds
the
like
tick
government.
off our back. The legal system, get rid of it. Okay? You got to get rid of those two things, politics and the legal system. Now we're back to men and women on the land with our resources. Now it's up to us to be intelligent enough to deal with it. Now there could be the problem, because people feel that they don't have the capacity to deal with their own lives. They've been so involved in this state will make the decisions, state knows best, that it's taken away the ability of most people to sit down with a clear mind and say, okay, what are the assets that we have, and how do we deal with them, so that we don't have charities all over the place, we don't have coat drives in the winter, we don't have people living without electricity, we don't have sick people who can't get a doctor, and so on and so forth. It's not communism, it's not socialism, it's not capitalism. It's people living, looking out for each other for the benefit of themselves and their neighbors. And that is not socialism. That is simply how men and women should be living. It's how our forefathers lived when they first came here. Okay? If somebody was in need, they went and helped them. If their frickin' house burned down, they built them a new one. Like I said, there's nothing that the West, I mean, this is a war against the West, period. They've already destroyed the rest of the world. This is the final war. This is the war against the West. Now, the question, I've said it a million times. There's nothing we can't grow, engineer, or manufacture, build here, and the rest of the world and go suck air. Now, you take and you build, instead of them trying to build their UN blocks, we build our own West Block. We bring in Australia. These are the countries that they're trying to destroy. The United States, Britain, and Scotland, and Ireland, and probably Spain, and some of these other countries in there. In fact, anybody that wants to join the damn thing. Okay? But we're not using phony money anymore. We're not living in a debt society anymore. Okay, the country, we can immediately print whatever money the government requires. Nobody has to put their hand in your pocket. Nobody has to be paying taxes, because the government has the capacity, because we gave it the capacity to create the funds required to pay for those parts of our economy, i.e. medical, which is the big one, education, to pay for those people that work in those jobs which really don't produce anything, okay? And then the rest of it is free enterprise, okay? Because you got to have free enterprise in order to bring the best out of people. The best will rise, and those that don't want to go there or don't have the capacity to go to there have the opportunity to work toward building a bigger nation or a better nation through these businesses. It's really quite freaking simple. Okay, but we get stuck on these stupid ideas of democracy, these stupid ideas of politics, this stupid idea of legal entities. Well, that's how we've always done it. Well, how's it worked out for everybody? Not worth a damn. Everything that I just mentioned has harmed people, continues to harm people because that's the nature of that beast. I mean, if you came home from work every day and your dog bit you on the ankle, pretty soon, I'm sure, even though you seemingly like the dog and you've had it for a long time, there's going to come a point where that sucker's going to bite you one time too many times. And you're going to give it the boot. We've just become so accustomed to being screwed over, we don't understand anything else. And that's really quite pathetic. So it's quite simple. So I want to get this guy up in this direct democracy because I know there's a whole bunch of these groups out there that are just nothing but either messed up, don't understand nothing, or they're just controlled opposition shit being put up there, right? To keep people in the same enslavement they've been in their whole lives, right? New democracy, direct democracy. Well, democracy doesn't work. It's not set up to work. Well, it's a simple thing. I mean, if you're going to go and build yourself a house, right? You figure out what you need, how you're going to put it together, and then you put it together. It's the same thing with a country. There's no different than a country because the country is your house. These are your resources. Only problem is today these aren't your resources. You have no access to the resources on your land. If you have no access to your own resources, then guess what? It ain't your country. It ain't your nation. It's somebody else's business. If we want to be free and we want some peace in this world, then we're going to have to take the politics and give them the boot. We're going to have to do like Shakespeare said, and hopefully meant metaphorically, and that is kill all the lawyers. In other words, get rid of the legal system. Get rid of those two things, and then we can start anew. And we'll look back in history, or those who come after us will look back in history, and they will look and wonder how in the hell we put up with these lies, these deceivers, these pickpockets, all those years. How it is that we put up with these ticks, then these liars, lawyers, all that time. How could we have allowed ourselves to be subdued by lies and deceivers? How could we have been so absolutely stupid? And why were we so fearful? We know what the problem is. We just got to get rid of it. And I do believe we're going to do it. We just got to kind of wipe the table clean. Start over. Only this time, we are in charge. We aren't going to be in debt. And that's one of the beautiful things about kicking out the law, or the lawyers, the legal system, excuse me, and the ticks. These countries believe, these people believe they're in debt. They're not in debt because the whole thing was set up as a fraud. And you can't gain from a fraud. That's against the law. So there is no debt. So once you kick the ticks off and the legal clowns out, all you have is your land and your people. And the land will provide everything the people require. And you will find your life is much less stressful. Your life is much more happy. And your future is a whole hell of a lot brighter than it is under these circumstances. The question is, are we just going to hang in here and wait until they beat us finally totally into the ground, or we're going to flick them off our back? You're out of here. It's our choice. Now, that's easy to say what I just said. it's going to be a little more difficult to implement it. But if we don't get to work at it, we ain't going to get it done. You know, it's like when you got to dig a ditch into a house or something, you look at it and the backhoe didn't show up, and you still got to get this ditch in there, and you look at the shovel and you look at the ground and you go, damn, I really don't want to do this. But I got to get that ditch dug so I can get this hooked up. And if I don't dig the ditch, it ain't going to get hooked up. So as much as I dislike the idea of digging this ditch, I know I got to get this hooked up. Therefore, I'm going to dig the ditch whether I like it or not. And that's basically the attitude we got to take as men and women of this country. Or we just sit back and whine and bitch and complain until we die. And then those who come after us will be in a much worse position than we are. And I don't want to see anybody's children or grandchildren standing over their grave going, why didn't you do something? That's a pathetic scene. So, are we that weak? Have we become that weak?
Ron, I seen something.
There's nothing we can do. And if we've convinced ourselves there's nothing we can do, then I guess we're going to get what we deserve. And that ain't going to be pretty.
I seen something, Ron.
Uh-huh.
I did.
What?
Well, I was reading a site, and unfortunately it's gone. It left as fast as it came on.
Okay.
But it was talking about that Dakota pipeline, right? Are you with me?
You say the code of pipeline?
Dakota.
Oh, Dakota. Okay, the Dakota pipeline, yeah.
Yeah. And it was a prophecy from an Indian elder. Talked about a black snake.
Yeah, I didn't get to read that. I saw it go by.
I know. I tried to find it. I can't get it again. It's gone.
I just saw it this morning. Let me go.
That is creepy, man.
I saw that on, where was that? That was on, I think I saw it on CBC go by. Just let me go see if I can.
Well, I got it on Freedom Phoenix.
I saw that. I saw that go by.
But it's gone.
Hey.
What a good story, man.
Did you read it?
Well, no, I skimmed. I'm guilty. But
yeah,
I mean, the premise of it is really cool because the black snake is the pipeline. You know, run across, destroy the land, and poison the water. And that's what the elders were telling the indigenous people. Kill the black snake. And I went, wow, man, you couldn't put it in any better words.
Well, I really wish to hell I could hook up with some Native. They seem so standoffish. You know, I talk to them whenever I can, and they're really nice people. They've been totally beat up. They've had the fight taken out of them for the most part. And they look at me with, I mean, we're getting along a lot better now. I mean, we joke around in that a bit now, but, you know, when I start talking to them, they look at me a little nervous. Like, who is this guy? Why is this white guy even talking to us, right? Kind of thing, right? Who is this guy? So this is happening to white people now, right? But, yeah, I mean, the black snake, you could call the black snake the legal system. You could call the black snake the politic. Because they've poisoned not just the water, they've poisoned the entire land. They've poisoned people's minds. They've poisoned our futures. You call them the black snake.
No.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying is correct, but think about this.
What?
That pipeline running through with rough crude, which is black.
Right.
Is that not the snake?
Well, I don't know.
The black snake.
Well, I mean, a pipeline it can be curvy, and
What runs through it?
yes, but
Black
it's
crude.
really a pipeline. It's not actually a snake,
No, I understand it's a metaphor.
right?
I mean, you're talking about people, I don't know what, their elders, what, 200, 300, 400, 500, I don't know, whatever years ago,
Uh-huh.
are talking about this black snake. Is that a prophecy?
Well, I don't know that it's a prophecy, but it's a hell of a good metaphor.
It is.
You know, it's somebody that looked at it. I mean, it has invaded their land, okay, just like the legal system has invaded our land. You know, it's brought to them through legal. That snake got there through the legal system and the political system. That's how the snake got there. Now, if there was no politics and there was no legal, then that pipeline, that black snake wouldn't be running through there right now. Okay, so in that sense, yes. Because the snake wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the system that we find ourselves enslaved by. You know, when you have all of these heavily armed thugs who go to protect the black snake, if you will, which was the legal and the political system that got the black snake there, you know, we wouldn't have any of these problems. I found this story, and it's still on CBC, and it says we must kill the black snake. Prophecy and prayer motivate Standing Rock movement. Now, this is really powerful, right? Because what they've done now is okay. Now I'm getting this. Let me just read a little wee bit of this. The ancient Lakota prophecy about, so they didn't just make this up now and call the pipeline the black snake, right?
Correct.
Okay, so an ancient Lakota prophecy about a black snake that would slither across the land, desecrating, the sacred sites and poisoning the water before destroying the earth. For many indigenous people gathered near the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, that snake has a name, the Dakota Access Pipeline. Yeah, that's pretty deep stuff.
That's the one I was looking for, but they took it off of Freedom Phoenix.
Well, I'll stick it. This is.
Put it in chat.
I'm going to put it in chat. This is off our Communist Broadcasting Corporation site. But I'll stick it in the chat. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. You know, that's really good stuff. I know it is, you call it prophecy or whatever you call it, but, you know, I keep saying to people, you know, we're going to win this, right? We're going to win these fights. We're going to take back our lands. We're going to take back our real lives and ditch these fictional lives. But mainly, we're going to win because we're supposed to. The point is, we're supposed to win this. Okay, we've been challenged. We've been beat down, and we've been warned. And the question is, are you strong enough to stand up? And we will win this because we're supposed to. I see this really as a prophetic turnover. When I'm yakking about rocking the boat, talking about getting us out of this netherworld and getting back to the real world. And if we can manage that, just like they want to kill that black snake, okay? We've killed what is threatens us, that holds us down, that holds us back, that abuses us. We've just had enough of it. Thank you very frickin' much. And it's time that we get on and cleanse our lands of this. And I do believe that this is the most interesting time in the history, or one of the most important, most interesting for a very, very long time, period of time in man's history. This is the time that man stands up. And that's basically what they're doing out at Dakota, is standing up. Because what is that? What do they call that? The Standing Rock movement. They are standing. It's not a protest. They're standing.
Well, just like the Bundys.
Yeah. These are all things that cannot be stopped now.
They're real men. They are real men standing up.
Yes. People have to recognize that they're men and women. Right? We have to recognize that we've been hoodwinked. Okay? You look at the black snake as the serpent who's the deceiver. I mean, it all plays together, doesn't it? And we're going to stomp it into the ground. We've had enough. So that whenever I hear somebody say, well, there's nothing we can do, it doesn't even dishearten me anymore, right? Because I know we're rising, and I know we're going to flip the boat. And I know, just like on the deck in that movie, where the ship's second in command or whatever gets up off the deck and the water's rolling off the deck, and he sticks his head up and goes, we're back. In other words, we've returned to reality. All this legal mumbo jumbo, which is all slithering around us, which is a black snake, and the politics, which is feeding off us and deceiving us, is another serpent, another black snake. And we need to just kick their asses out of here. And it's become so ludicrous that, the idea, when you go back to what the hell was his name? Wilson's buddy there. Mandel House. Saying that, even if 1 in a million figure this out, we still have plausible deniability. Well, that's way past now. There is no plausible deniability anymore. The legal system is a fraud. The politics is a fraud. You can deny it all you want. They can, but there's nowhere for them to go anymore. Okay? The game's up, folks. The game's up. And, either you're going to get on side or we're going to round you up. So, this is a very, I'll have to read this story. It's very, very interesting. I like it. But, her message was clear. Who is this? Message was clear. We must stand together and we must kill the black snake. I love it. Brilliant. That's something people can rally behind, right? And that gets rid of the politics. It gets rid of the legal garbage. A decision has been made. We are going to kill the black snake. Period. And that's pretty powerful. Like, I love the natives. I really, truly do. Their law is the same. Their law, if you look at the native law, and, they always talk about, the environmentalists always talk about the natives, praising the earth, the trees and the water and the fishes. But the natives, that's been a screwed over mess. That we must be like the natives and we must worship Mother Earth. But that's all taken out of context because the natives understand the concept of the Creator. They know there was they know in their history of the Creator who created the trees and the waters. Okay, and give them dominion over them. The same story is in the King James Bible. The law of the natives is the same as the law in the King James Bible, more or less. That's do no harm, and if you do harm, you're going to be brought to a tribunal, which is basically a jury, and you're going to be asked to undo the harm you did. And if you refuse to undo the harm you did, you'll be ostracized from the neighborhood or the community, whatever, which makes you an outlaw because you refuse to abide by the law, which is do no harm. And if you do harm, it is your job to undo the harm as close as absolutely possible. That's law. That's also native law. Now, if you go to the politics side of it, which I don't like the word, but what do the native people do? Okay? They have a circle. They don't have opposing sides. They don't have native parties. They have a people. And the people sit down and decide what's best for the people. Nobody sits at the head of their throne and says, this is what's best, this is what you're going to do, or I'm going to throw your ass in jail and tase you. Okay? It's too frickin' simple. But the native law is based on the creator law. Right? Treat each other with respect. Don't do any harm to one another. I provided you with all the resources required for you to have a good existence while you're here. That was all taken away from us through politics and the legal system, which you can look at both of them as ticks or serpents or whatever the hell you want to look at them. But the politics and the legal people went out of their way to make the white man hate the native people. I think mainly because they didn't want the white people to look at the system that the native people had, which is the real system of law, the real system of governance. The use of the resources that they require. Now, the natives know that the earth will grow a new tree and grow a new fish and grow a new beaver and grow a new buffalo. That's just normal. What'd the white man do? They went and killed all their buffalo, cut their trees down, took away their ability to fend for themselves, and put them on reserves. Okay, and they basically busted the heart of those people and the will of those people. But it appears this will is rising again. It appears that the will and awakening in the general public is moving quicker and quicker all the time. So these lawyers are in absolute fear. The police live in fear. The judges live in fear. The politicians live in fear. It's not us that are fearful anymore. It is they who are fearful. And they damn well need to be fearful.
Well, you know, Ron, even on the reserves, the chiefs, are trying to push this through. And so,
yes, but that's the chief that pushed the pipeline through. You're saying the chiefs are trying to push the pipeline through, and the people.
Well, they're saying, it's going to be beneficial. It's going to give us some money.
Well, those aren't.
Who's going to give money to?
Those are not the leaders of the native people.
Exactly.
Right, but they're the ticks, right? Okay, they are there to feed off their own people, and they need to be removed. What you see down there at the protest, people. Now, if the people can get behind this idea of killing the black snake, I'll love it. Especially, and I'll have to look into it a little bit deeper, but I mean, if this is correct, if there is in fact an ancient Lakota prophecy about a black snake that would slither across the land, desecrating the sacred sites, and poisoning the water before destroying the earth. If there is, in fact, such a Lakota prophecy, which we'll have to look up, because this is just written here, so you can't trust anything that's written down. But if this turns out to be true,
Crazy, huh?
then this is brilliant. Okay, this is something the people can get behind.
That's what I started out trying to tell you.
Yeah, but I have to go check it out and see if it's
Oh, I know. I know you. You're a researcher. God damn it.
well, I mean, it says this. I mean, but if you jump
Well,
on,
it must be true.
well, it's on CBC TV, on CBC News, right? It has to be true. No, not necessarily, but I hope it's true because this is not them looking at the pipeline and
Well, let's just say, Ron, if it is true,
yeah,
really creepy prophecy.
nothing creepy about it.
Well,
It's brilliant.
how did they know that they were going to run a pipeline running raw, crude black oil through that like a snake through their land and their waters and destroy the land and poison the waters? That to me is creepy, man.
I don't find that sort of thing creepy at all.
Okay.
I just find it normal. I find politics creepy. I find the legal system creepy, right? To me, I mean, I don't know if it's prophecy or what, but why do I do what I do? Why do you do what you do? I don't know, but I do what I do because I'm a firm and total believer that we need to do what we're doing because we're told to do it because this is about beating this off of us.
Yeah, but
And
Ron,
that
if you
we
look at
will
the other side
win.
of the coin,
What?
look at the other side of the coin.
What?
Well, maybe not the other side of the coin, but I mean, if we accomplish true freedom for people
Right.
living on their lands,
Right.
we're going to get off a board because we will have nothing else to do.
What do you mean? Enjoy your life.
Oh, well, I will always die happy.
Wouldn't you enjoy? Let me put it to you this way, Chris. Wouldn't you much more enjoy building someone a home, knowing that your labor goes in your pocket, and that you're not working and you've got multiple hands in your pocket, pulling out your labor from you without your consent, to use those monies of your labor that they stole from you for nefarious reasons to further hurt your future and your life? Wouldn't it be a lot more pleasant to go build a house for somebody, knowing the labor is yours, and if you want to go up a ladder, you can go up a ladder, okay, that you are in charge of your safety, not some freaking pencil neck with some legal piece of paper. And if you want to go fishing after work, you can go fishing and you don't have to go and get a stupid license and this and that and the other thing. Wouldn't life be just a little more pleasant? And you wouldn't work as hard, you wouldn't work as long, you would have a lot more spare time to enjoy your life. We have us, you might as well look at our lives as sitting down there busting rocks, because that's really what we're doing. We work all day, then we worry about work, and you have no time. You have no time. No real time that your head is not concerned with, am I going to get this bill paid or that bill paid, or am I going to have work tomorrow? Am I going to have food on the table? Winter's coming. Now, all of those things destroy people's lives. How do people call that an enjoyable life?
Well, what about you didn't mention paperwork.
I don't like paper.
I know.
Paper is of the legal realm.
Yeah.
Men and women don't need paper.
But everything you said, Ron, is correct. It was just me having fun again.
I know.
But I just took out a glove box full of more paperwork. I put it in a bag and I threw it in the office. and I can't even get in my office right now. I got so much paperwork in bags.
Right.
And why do I have to have that? Because the government says. Otherwise,
Well, that's
I'm gonna
just
pay an
you're doing
$30,000
paperwork
in
so that
taxes.
you're keeping track of. Your job is to keep track of how much they're stealing from you and give it to them. Basically, I mean, when I
That could be a
grew
little
up,
bit
I
of a
mean, the
rebate
first
for it.
job, the first contract I ever took, I was 12. And I needed money to buy a pellet gun. My parents wouldn't buy me a pellet gun because, well, you'll shoot your eye out. And so, you know, I rounded up 3 buddies and we all wanted pellet guns and they're $25 a piece. And so I talked to a store and lived down the street. His house was painted, the old painted siding. It was kind of needed a paint job. Went and talked to him. And so I cut him a deal. He supplied the paint. We'll paint the house for $100. And that's at the age of 12. And, you know, we did it. There was no paperwork. We painted the house. He handed over the $100. We went down and we handed over $25 a piece. We were given our pellet guns, no paperwork, and life was good.
Well, how did you pay for the streets to get there?
The what?
The streets, the roads. You had to get there by a road, I assume, which was paved with oil-based
Snake
products.
oil. My snake oil road. The black snake weaving through my town.
Yep.
Yeah. Anybody can build a road, Chris. You know,
Well,
this is what people don't understand. This
without-
is what people don't understand. I don't need a legal system to build a road. I don't need politics to build a road. Okay? If the people need a road, then the people will build a frickin' road. We know how to make asphalt. We know how to run a truck. Okay? So we just do it. It's not difficult. But people are under this impression, and they've been brought up that way, that, well, we need these overlords over us, these oversight bodies who know more than we. We need these experts to tell us what we can and can't do. Somebody has to tell us what we can and can't do. For God's sakes, I mean, mentally, we're only little children, and we have to have some nanny to look after us and tell us what to do. No, we need to grow out of the child state of which we've been stuck in through the legal system, and we actually have to stand up as men and women and deal with it, right? It's that simple. It's too simple. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's just too simple for people to wrap their mind around. Maybe they've just been so, maybe, you know, if we did this, we wouldn't have nothing to bitch at but ourselves. Right? Because if we didn't put the road in, we needed the road. We couldn't bitch at anybody. We couldn't say the damn government didn't put the road in. Well, now you got nobody to bitch at. Now you're responsible for the road. I think that scares people more than anything else, is that they will have to become responsible, and they got nobody to bitch about. We like to blame others for the shortcomings of ourselves. And I suppose that's one of the main jobs of government, is to give the people something to bitch at. But that ain't the way it works. It never worked that way, because all that does is remove you from the responsibility that you're supposed to have as a man or a woman, as a grown-up, not a child. Child can get away with that. Mommy, 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 I want a road. Well, go ask your dad. I had daddy. He told me to talk to you because, well, I want a road. I want my allowance, right? That's what they've put the people in. That's the position that the people are in. The men and women aren't men and women; they're children. I want to see them grow into men and women, and then we're going to go have ourselves some fun. And I want to thank you for bringing that up. So I love
Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot